Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're going to visually unpack the intense, and I mean intense, emotional journey of an ancient text. We're going to navigate all the way from absolute ground-level panic to a profound, unshakable cosmic peace. Honestly, we're looking at a piece of ancient wisdom that speaks directly to the modern human condition. Because, let's face it, we all want to know how we're supposed to react when everything around us feels like it's completely falling apart, right? It's a fascinating progression, so let's just dive right into this. Let's start right in the thick of the tension. The text begins like this. "In the Lord I take refuge. How can you say to my soul, flee like a bird to your mountain?" Talk about a relatable feeling of anxiety. Have you ever been in a situation where the whole world, maybe even your closest advisors, is basically screaming at you to panic, pack your bags, and run for your life? That is exactly the emotional starting point of the text we're exploring today. The pressure is immediate, and that instinct for self-preservation, it's completely overwhelming.
So this is the text we're digging into today. It's the English Standard Version of Psalm 11, an ancient poem attributed to David. And what makes this piece of literature so incredibly relevant is how perfectly it captures the psychological chaos of a society that is just collapsing. Think about David's historical context for a second here. He was a leader who spent years literally on the run. Hiding out in caves from King Saul, and later fleeing a whole coup led by his own son. The guy intimately knew what it meant to have a massive target on his back. So this isn't just some abstract poetry. No, it's a literal masterclass in how humanity processes a real, tangible crisis when the walls are closing in.
All right, Section 1. The urge to flee, shooting in the dark.
We begin with this frantic, totally horizontal worldview in the opening verses. The text details exactly why those advisors we just talked about are urgently telling the speaker to get out of there. Notice the vivid, really escalating tension in verse 2. They bend the bow, they have fitted their arrow to the string, to shoot in the dark at the upright in heart. This brilliantly illustrates the breathless, growing danger of a threat you literally cannot even see. You can feel the frantic pacing here, right? The weapons are drawn, they're aimed, and the darkness makes the attack entirely unpredictable. It's the ultimate expression of vulnerability. You can't fight an enemy that stays hidden in the shadows. And that's exactly why the urge to just run away becomes so incredibly overpowering.
Moving on to Section 2. When foundations are destroyed, the core question.
So we now hit the narrative climax in verse 3. The breathless running just stops, and a deep, existential panic fully sets in. We actually see a fascinating contrast in the translation here. The primary reading asks, if the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? But an alternate translation poses it a bit differently. Or for the foundations will be destroyed, what has the righteous done? This comparison is brilliant because it illustrates how ancient poetry captures the deep, unsettling ambiguity of societal foundations just crumbling. Are the foundations already gone? Or are they about to be destroyed? And what on earth is a good person supposed to do when the very bedrock of their world falls apart? This isn't just about a physical threat anymore, guys. This is about the total collapse of justice, order, and truth itself. When the systems that are supposed to protect you completely fail, the helplessness you feel is profound.
Section 3. The heavenly perspective, the great pivot.
Having let that massive existential question hang in the air for a moment, we're going to shift gears entirely. We adopt a slow, calming pace to reveal the divine worldview. The text perfectly juxtaposes the crumbling panic of Earth against this absolute, rock-solid stability. While the earthly foundations are destroyed in verse 3, verse 4 counters immediately, the Lord's throne is in heaven. The earth's foundations might literally be crumbling into dust, but the throne above remains completely untouched and perfectly secure. It's a total paradigm shift. We move from looking frantically side to side at those hidden archers to looking directly upward. The chaos on the ground doesn't dictate the reality of the cosmos. His eyes see, his eyelids test the children of man. Now, remember back in verse 2, where the wicked were terrifyingly shooting in the dark? Well, from this new vertical perspective, there is no darkness. From the throne, the perspective sees absolutely everything with total clarity. The panic of the unseen threat just vanishes when you realize that nothing is actually hidden from the ultimate judge. And you know, the phrase, his eyelids test, is such a fascinating, piercing image. It implies this deep, scrutinizing gaze, kind of like someone narrowing their eyes to look incredibly closely at something. The darkness offers zero cover from that kind of penetrating vision. Which brings us to Section 4, the portion of their cup, the arsenal of justice. Verses 5 and 6 shift our focus to how this unshakable authority actually responds to all the earthly chaos. The Lord tests the righteous, but his soul hates the wicked and the one who loves violence. I really want to highlight the stark division established here. On one side, you have the righteous who are experiencing a test. This is an absolutely crucial reframing. They aren't just abandoned to the crumbling foundations, they're actually being proven through them. On the flip side, you have those whom the Lord actively opposes. The moral ambiguity of the collapsing society is suddenly brought into sharp, undeniable focus. The violence that caused so much panic, it's not ignored, it is deeply fundamentally rejected by the throne.
And wow, the consequence of that opposition is severe. Verse 6 details what I like to call an arsenal of justice. Rain coals on the wicked, fire and sulfur, a scorching wind. This text is using intense, really tactile imagery here. It makes the severity of the promised justice feel undeniably real and just overwhelming. The chaotic threat of those arrows in the dark, it's entirely eclipsed by this cosmic, inescapable response. This actually echoes ancient catastrophic imagery, like the historical accounts of Sodom and Gomorrah, serving as a really powerful reminder that cosmic justice has a deeply historical, very permanent track record. Those hidden archers are entirely outmatched.
Finally, we reach section 5, the ultimate reward, final piece.
We arrive at the grand resolution in verse 7, completely shifting away from the fire, the panic, and the destruction. For the Lord is righteous, he loves righteous deeds, the upright shall behold his face. Notice that the ultimate reward for standing firm is not just, surviving the arrows. It's not successfully fleeing like a bird to some mountain hideaway. The reward is pure presence. They shall behold his face. In the ancient world, being granted an audience to actually see the face of the king was the ultimate sign of royal favor and total security. The whole journey from frantic panic ends in absolute face-to-face stillness. All the anxiety of the crumbling foundations is completely resolved in that single intimate reality.
So, I want to leave you with this summarizing question to reflect on today. When your foundations are destroyed, do you flee like a bird or look to the throne? It's kind of amazing how this ancient wisdom remains instantly relevant to our own moments of crisis today, isn't it? When our systems fail, the instinct to panic is universal, but the invitation to find peace in a higher perspective is always there. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep seeking that clear perspective, and I'll catch you next time.